Hey, everybody. It's Wendy and Tim.
And Tym Moss, hi.
And Wendy Stuart, and welcome to If These Walls Could Talk. We are so happy to be. Tim, look, we're lit from behind today. Like we're equally lit. That isn't usually we're missing a light or something. My God, we are high. I feel like I'm on Broadway.
Yes, right.
Thank you all so much for joining us today on this wet Wednesday, warm Wednesday.
It's wet here in New York today.
It's wet here in
That's
New
why
York
I have my hair pulled back.
Right.
I look like, what was his name? J.J.
Walker
from
Grandpa Munster.
Yes, Grandpa Munster.
Tim was looking like, and I have to tell you, the hair thing is really a challenge. That's why I said to Tim, I put mine back. We have unruly hair that goes with our unruly minds.
But that's so amazing because I was telling her earlier, I have seen you at like 10 o'clock in the morning. I've seen you at 6 in the afternoon or 5 in the afternoon and 10 o'clock at night again. And you always look fabulous. Your hair is always in place. Everything, your makeup, all the time.
Because when people are sitting in the subway looking at their phones, I put makeup on the subway. I am that person. Okay. And then when I get off, I try and find a store window. This is absolutely true. And I'll just redo my hair. You'll notice I always have it in these clips. People have said to me, Wendy, why is your hair in those clips all those times? Because my hair just doesn't do what it should do. Like when it's cold out, it's good. Cold days for my hair are good, but cold days are not good for my mind. So there you have my hair tale of woe. So,
well,
Tym
my
Moss,
goodness, I've had quite a week. I'm sure you have as well.
Well,
it was my birthday week. Actually, my birthday was last Saturday. I turned 63. This is what 63 looks like.
Flawless.
But also, last Thursday, I went to Eric Botcher's birthday. Eric Botcher is a New York City councilman. I love Eric. I've known him for years.
He's very
really
handsome
amazing.
too.
He is. He's the entire package. He's amazing.
Everything that you
and I went there and like Michael Musto and Mickey Boardman and oh my God, so a lot of politicians were there that I hadn't seen in a long time. It was wonderful, wonderful, wonderful evening.
Well, and for Friday night, for Tim's birthday, we celebrated Tim at Dorothy Bishop's Dozen Divas show. She brought Tim up on stage, which was really fun. I don't know what you were doing up there, but it was something. And we were celebrating Tim, and then we went next door, and
Wendy had got me a cake.
Yeah, we did.
Which was so sweet.
Oh my God, it was so.
Yeah, we went to the bar next door and broke out some cake and had a wonderful time.
We did, and Dorothy's show was always great. She brought out a new diva this time, Kim Kardashian.
Yes, Kim Kardashian.
I'm sorry, I almost died.
The inflated butt.
Dorothy, part of what she comes into the audience, she almost killed a couple of people with it. Jesse Luttrell almost got knocked off of his seat.
Yeah, he almost lost an eye.
He did almost lost an eye. That butt was like so absolutely so huge. And last night, my God, what a treat! I got to hear you sing.
Last night, yeah. Last night was
Reverend Yolanda.
Our dear friend Reverend Yolanda had lost her husband, Reverend Glenn Ganaway, and his memorial was last night.
Yeah.
And again, I got to see a lot. I hate funerals, but you get to see people you haven't seen in years, and that was exactly the case last night. And so it's joyful in the fact that he brought all of us together, but sad in the fact that it was, a funeral to release him and let him be free.
But for people who follow Reverend Yolanda and the Book of Miracles, Yolanda's very much Course of Miracles. Yolanda's very much based in that kind of spirituality and in transition, where although we lose a person in the physical form, they reconnect with us in the spiritual form. And her phone, she kept saying her phone will go off on certain things.
Well, it was she kept Glenn's phone,
right,
and it would
without
make noises every now and then, just
when we'd reference Glenn.
And throughout last night, there was probably about 4 or 5 times where
so I could very much feel Glenn.
So Glenn was there. I sang the same song last night. Yolanda had asked me to sing a song, and I sang the same song that Wendy. I sang at Alan's memorial here for Wendy, and yeah, it was very emotional.
It was very emotional, but it was emotional for me that you sang that song. And of course, very meaningful to hear it again. Oh my gosh, the Lower East Side Festival.
Oh God, yes.
Is this weekend. I'm Friday night.
I'm Friday night at about 9 now.
But you're in the big theater.
Yeah, I'm in the Johnson upstairs.
The Johnson. It figures Tim would be in the Johnson. How totally appropriate.
But yeah, do definitely come out and support. It's wonderful. So yeah, see Wendy perform. I'm going to be performing.
Right.
It's going to be a very fun night. There's just such an array of entertainment.
An array. I love it. Right.
It really is
something for everybody.
It's East Village. It's raw East Village. You've got everything. One person could be a stripper. The next one could be an aerialist. The next one is a singer.
Or they could be all three.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
Singing naked, hanging from the rafters, singing New York, New York.
Or you got to have a gimmick. So while we're talking about the Lower East Side Festival, that's at Theater for the New City.
Yes.
It's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But also this Thursday night, we're going to see Crocodile's Lair with JC Augustine and Jay Walker, who were on our show like 2 weeks ago or something like that. So, it's exciting when we can have the people guest on our show, then we go see their show. And, it reminds us that in New York, it's one big happy family.
Yeah, absolutely.
And speaking of a big happy family.
Yes.
So, Tim, I'll get on something and he's like, you have to have this person on. You have to have this person on. He's just really incredible. So our guest today, Adam Linn, is an award-winning playwright. His solo show, Sped Kid, won the best autobiographical show at the 2024 United Solo Festival in New York. He is an author, an actor, an essayist, a public speaker. As he says, anything that involves words, which is quite poignant because slide right over.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
You're good. And I'm going to slide over a little more. Adam is not sighted. He performs all of this. Okay. And Adam is blind and he came here today with his amazing, I'm going to call her your sidekick instead of service, with his sidekick, Nadia, who some way, somehow I want to get up on this bench later.
I feel like we're going to have to.
We have to.
Point the camera at Nadia.
No, we need to do that. Because
Nadia's attacking Tim.
No, she's just laying right here and I'm straddling her.
That's usually the position that Tim's in.
That's part of the Lower East Side.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Why am I not surprised today? Okay, is everybody cozy?
Are we comfortable?
How are you?
Comfy.
Yes. Are you good?
Oh my God, Tim, thank you so much. I mean, first of all, whenever I'm on stage, I like to take a minute and say, like, wow, we're all here.
Right.
We're breathing together. It's not the pandemic. It's
right.
Like,
it's not the pandemic.
I so enjoy, personal,
right.
Being together.
Well,
thank you for having me here.
And I was surely it would have been much easier for you to say, "Oh, I'm going to stream." I mean, people just do that, right? Mm-hmm. And the fact that you wanted to come in person, we love having the people in person. Tim likes to be able to touch them. No, I'm just
I'll touch Tim. Tim and I known each other for a long time.
And I sent him that you sent me 2 pictures. I did forward them to your email, Tim. You probably didn't get a chance to check them. They came yesterday from a film. You guys did.
From Seattle.
Before we get to Seattle.
Before we get to Seattle. You had pictures of us?
Tim was always young. Tim is young. And I look much younger in the photos. I mean, it's further ago than I'd like to admit. But I mean,
do we remember when that was?
That was 2008. I know.
2008. Really? Wow, that's like 15 years ago.
And I mean, it was so great for me to be able to, because I never forgot Tim. I mean, Tim came to audition for the film, and the way that is it all right if I jump right in here?
Yeah, this is your show.
I mean, the way that I cast in this, a show, or in this case, a film, I didn't specifically have types in mind. I just thought, let people come in and let me see what they have. And Tim walked in, and maybe like 8 seconds into it, I'm like, okay, this guy's in the movie. And it's because
I love that too.
My director and I use this word all the time, duende, the spirit, the energy.
The duende.
And I was like, Tim has, I don't know how this film is going to come out. You never, a low budget film. It's like, there are many factors, but it's like, if I get someone who has got a great spirit, great energy.
Great energy. Great energy.
It's like, and the camera's looking at him. Well, that time will be good. And I was very correct.
Right.
I mean, Tim, I was remembering. So this was a no budget film, a very small, we were over in Brooklyn. It was a Sunday night around 8:00, a day like this, cold, rainy.
Right. Well, it wasn't at midnight, at least it was 8:00.
Well,
It's still
it was
right.
maybe 7:00.
All right, even earlier, better.
The sun is going down. And I had booked a deli where we were going to shoot the most crucial scene of the movie. And as we pulled up, and there were 30 of us, it was a very,
we had a lot of people.
We had a makeup crew, we had craft service. I mean, this was a fairly
craft service.
Yes,
we had. So
I mean, this was like the first big film that I'd ever done. And then the deli guy said, "Well, absolutely not. You can't come in." Right? He just locked the door.
30 people.
Right, 30 people in Park Slope in the rain on a Sunday night, ready to go, and no location. Right. So one assistant director ran one way, the other ran the other way, and the guy came back and he's like, "Okay,
I got a deli.
We got a deli. They just want 500 in cash. They're not going to close, and their son needs to be in the movie." And I don't know if Tim, if you remember.
Yes, right. I forgot about all of this.
That's a great story.
I forgot about
the teenage son whose name was Ahab. I mean, you can't make that up. I was like, Ahab.
And the 500 in cash, it's like you cut a deal.
Right. 500 in cash is okay. But then not closing.
But they had to stay open, so there would be customers coming in.
Yeah, so we're shooting, but luckily it wasn't. But yeah, at one point, like my assistant director was fighting with guys buying 40s. I was like, but it's, I mean, as stressful as the whole thing was, I kind of loved it too. Because I thought, this is New York, right?
Exactly.
We're in a place, we're shooting a movie, we're young, we're alive. This is,
But you just brought out something, the challenges, right, of independent, low budget film.
Yeah.
And these are the kinds of things that can happen. And you landed on both feet at the end of the day.
I think so. And it's like melodyman@AOL.com, right?
Yeah.
I never forgot that. And
my God.
This was always in my mind.
It's a good one. It's an easier one to remember than most. It's smart, Tim.
And it's smart to spell your name the way you do, Tim, because I know many TIMs, but it's like, okay, TYM. Yeah, but I was, as you mentioned at the top, I was doing the show Sped Kid, which was my off-Broadway debut, having my own show. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, let me reach out to Tim and let him know what I'm doing.
So this all happened at the same time.
Yeah, New York's
this is now. Like this was a couple.
This time. Okay.
A couple months ago.
I hadn't seen Tim in years, but I see him on Facebook. I follow his.
So this is how this all happened.
Yes.
Wow. Yes. I thought like the two of you ran into each other. Tim runs into people. He's out all the time.
Right. No, this is me being a ham. Because I'm in bed at 7:30, Wendy, because I have 2 kids, and I'm like,
it's exhausting.
I'd look even older.
Right.
But there's so many things here. One is you are completely blind.
Correct.
You have kids.
Correct.
That you get ready in the morning for them to go to school.
Best I can.
You also produced a film.
Right.
Wrote and produced a film, which a film is very visual.
Right.
It amazes me. I am in such awe that you accomplish these things.
Well, the kids, I just look around and I figure, okay, a lot of people have kids and they don't die, so that's doable. Right. I guess we don't see the ones that do die.
Oh my God, that's great. We just don't hear about it.
I used to have 4 kids. No.
Well, we're blessed that we have 2 left. How old are your kids, first of all?
10 and 13.
Okay,
right.
so they can
you got
be
the
at least self-sufficient, but you raise these kids.
Yeah, oh, yes. And yes. But if
it's tougher when they're younger.
I like it better that they're older. I mean, I love, singing, going to museums, writing music, reading books.
People, right?
When they're 5, I mean, like, how many times can I watch freaking Peppa Pig?
But they're more dependent, I guess, is my point. When they're little, you have to help them with so many things.
Yeah, but then they get evil and they're trying to trick me, and they know I can't see, and I think they're sweet little angels, and they would never trick me.
And
oh my goodness!
I almost
Daddy can't
see.
Right?
I can't. I'm not even going to get into the horror show. I'm like, oh my God, like they have tricked me lately now, because I'm kind of a naive. Because I just can't stand people who are tough and hard and everything. They know everything because they don't know anything.
Right.
So I just say I don't know anything, and I'm gullible. And oh my God, my older daughter. Whew, really? But let's talk about this simple thing, like making a movie.
Yeah. Right. The challenges of children.
Because when Tim and I knew each other making a movie, unfortunately, man, is there any time in your life, Tim, and you know this from making films, Wendy, like time is money. Like every minute that passes and you're the one in charge of the movie, you're feeling those dollars go through your fingers, right? And it's like, I've never experienced that, but it's like blood, right? Like you can't fool around.
Well, you had me at the $500 for the deli, because I don't know if you were expecting that. I don't know what you were paying the other guy, but that's a chunk of change you had to have on you. You had to be ready for that.
Yeah, and it's funny. Did we have it on us? Maybe in those days, because I haven't had cash in my pocket in like 4.5 years or something. Right. So in those days, I think we knew enough about indie filmmaking that you always want. I mean, we probably had money ready for the cops.
Right. Cop money, we used to call it.
Yeah, something like that. So Tim and I loved Tim, and we were enjoying making the film, but I don't know that we got to talk a lot.
Right.
Because you were working.
Right. We're on set. You don't get a lot of time.
Tim is busy, and I went on to other things. But I mean, really, the way that I was so proud of that film, Tim, and I want to make too. Yeah, and I have plans for you in the future, Tim. Don't worry. Because I mean, really, this whole journey. I was talking to my mom about this morning. Started in 1990 in San Diego. I always thought I was pretty cool in high school. That's how out of it I am, that I didn't realize that I wasn't that cool. I mean,
you were dorky.
I was on the wrestling team. I thought I was cool. Cool. I could grab boys and throw them on the floor, and they'd throw me on the floor, right? But so my mother is a librarian, or was a librarian, and she's like, "Oh, there's a library convention out in San Diego. Do you want to go?" Now most 18-year-olds would be like, "No," and I was like, "Oh yeah, that'll be cool," right? And because I thought, California is cool, so therefore,
it's got to be a cool experience.
Yeah, we went to this library convention, and and then I'm maybe realizing, maybe it wasn't that cool. And then the last day, the keynote speaker is John Waters. And
my God!
We're right there in the front row, and John Waters is speaking
at a library convention. Go figure.
And I mean, and I think, and I'm not even sure if this is on YouTube. He came out and he's like, "Ladies, you have an image problem. You need to start wearing hot pants. You need hot pants at the library day." And I was like, I love this guy.
Oh my God, how could you not? That's a great story. That's a great John Waters story.
Yeah, he didn't know, as I'm sitting there, a few feet away, like I got suspended from school in high school. Like I was always a pretty good student, but I cut school to go see Hairspray. And I got caught. And I ended up getting in-house suspension for like a long time.
For Hairspray?
Yes.
That's an educational film. What's wrong with them? My God.
Went to a very strict school. But, and John Waters got up there and he talked about no one was going to make his movie for him. And, and growing up as like a Catholic kid in Maryland and gay and trying, and I loved what he said about being gay. Like he said, he saw Tennessee Williams and he's like, I'm not that gay.
Like when he had the gayometer,
right?
Not as gay as
or he's different. He just wanted to be, he had his own vibe. Mm-hmm. And I thought, and I'm sitting there thinking, if you'd asked me then, I was going to law school. Because people told me to, right? And it seemed like, and I didn't want to be a blind guy. I didn't have a job. I stayed at home. Like I wanted an independent life. I wanted to get out.
And law school, because I know you love words. Right. And that's perfect, right? Lawyers don't stop talking.
Yeah, stop talking and arguing.
Litigator, and arguing and having opinions.
I believe in but in other lives, like you could see how things would have happened. It's like, okay, in another life, I might have been. I was never going to be an accountant, but maybe a lawyer, you know. But John Waters, it's really struck me to make, and I left there, and I didn't want to admit it to myself, and I certainly didn't say it out loud to anyone. I thought, I want to make movies like him.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And I realized time is like a wheel. It's my time now.
Yeah.
It was not my time then. And like, my mother went over to him afterwards, like, John Waters, you're so great. And I was too scared. I was kind of like, hey.
Well, you were a different person then.
You used a word a couple weeks ago talking about Charles Bush.
Right.
And you said you evolved.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, that is so smart, Wendy. Because people forget and they think, oh, I was the same liberal progressive person at 20 as I am at 50. I doubt it. I doubt it.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe how conservative college students, especially in our day, were.
Right.
And it's like, I evolve every day and I'm open to more and more things. And it's like, I love hearing different perspectives. And you think you know what's going on, and then you meet different people and you think, oh, I don't.
But some of that is your personality, that you are open to it. Not everybody is. There are people that pride themselves on their rigidness and narrowness. And again, they're not the same person that they were when they were 20 or 25, but they're they're predictable in their reactions, whereas you seem to be like you're open to it. It's coming and you're going to let it in. That's a different thing.
And I think, but I've learned to get better at that. Like, I think that being blind, you're an outsider. Right. You know, and it's like, why did I know? I went to Harvard, you know, which is a certain, you know, is it all upper middle class and upper class white kids from New York? Yes. Right.
Harvard is, yeah.
Yeah. And why did I end up sitting occasionally at the black table? Why did I know, you know, in those days, it was just lesbian, gay, bisexual, you know, club.
Right.
Why did
blind didn't have a category.
No, not, there were a couple of blind kids, but so small that why did we all stick together? And why are my friends
the marginalized
all these years later?
Yeah.
And I realized, you know what, it wasn't necessarily cool, especially at a place like Harvard. People wanted to fit in.
Right.
Everyone wants to be attorney general or president someday.
Yeah.
And that's not even a joke.
Right.
I mean, like, people would be smoking a joint and they'd be like, no cameras, make sure no one has a camera.
Right. Because
I don't know what they do
I'm
now.
going to be a senator in 5 years.
Yeah. And so Ben Sassy lived right in our building. My roommate was always like, my God, he has a cute ass. Sorry, Senator Sassy. Or
okay, you're forgiven.
But, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I didn't come out of the John Waters meeting and say, hey, folks, I'm going to be a blind filmmaker. I had to evolve into that. And what ended up happening was I graduated from college and I still told myself I could work at a big company or be in finance or something. But,
you didn't tell us what you majored in, though.
I did economics.
Because smart.
Yeah, because I so didn't want to move home after school. I was so afraid, Wendy. I wanted to be free.
You wanted to be independent. Every kid wants that.
Yeah, and you know, the unemployment rate amongst blind people is like 75%, 80%. People talk about 10%. Try 80%.
Okay, but I want to repeat that. The unemployment amongst blind people, 80%. And that is shocking to me because there's so many devices now with a computer and everything. And my God, Braille was invented how long ago? Why is that number so high? This has got nothing to do with a person's ability.
Right.
It shouldn't.
This is a whole other conversation we could have. I think it's structural, and
it's not like you're trying to be a bus driver. Okay, I can get I totally get that. Maybe not a good job for you, but in terms of a person's aptitude, this should not have anything to do with the price of eggs. I mean, my God.
So yeah, there's a lot of factors. Although my grandfather was a bus driver, I could see me dropping a bus.
right, by osmosis, right, genetic osmosis. Yeah. But that is a staggering number. I mean, you're Harvard educated,
right?
You would think people would be clamoring to hire you.
I guess, except that I was secretly wanting to be a filmmaker.
Excuse me, the arts will do you in every time.
I was working at a big company, and I was in charge of doing some kind of diversity day or something. And I said, well, we could make a movie about disability. And I said, FDR fought the Nazis from a wheelchair. And
how did that go over? Like a lead balloon.
My boss was just like, she was this very nice lady, but she was very corporate. Was like, you want to make a movie? So bottom line, so I moved to New York. I went to NYU. I majored in screenwriting, and I met some the first thing I should say is I came to New York. This is unbelievable, Tim. I don't think you know about this. I auditioned for a role in a film called My Blind Brother, which was directed by this wonderful British director called Sophie Goodhart, and she, this call went out nationwide because there aren't that many blind actors or what have you. Right. I auditioned from my house, my kitchen in San Francisco. And she said, well, you understand that this film is happening in New York? I said, yep. And she's like, and you understand there's no pay and you have to come and pay your own way and there's no place to stay. I'm like, yep. So I get a role in the film and I went out to New York to be in the film and everyone said, so you're going across country to be in a short film? And I just said, first of all, I read this script. I thought it was fantastic.
Wow.
And if I stay in San Francisco, I'm not making movies. Right. But by going to New York and being in this movie,
passion.
I knew it was the right move. I knew it was the right move. And Wendy, so I go and I get a role and I'm in this movie. Of the two brothers, one of them is the young Tony Hale, who went on to be Buster, obviously, in this Arrested Development. The film went to Cannes and got the jury award. In 2003. I mean, I thought to myself, I knew it was fantastic. I'm
Right.
not
You
surprised.
knew a good script.
And it just, I mean, because the blind guy in it is a complete jerk, which I thought, this is great.
Right.
This is
Yeah.
Well,
great.
that's an opportunity, of course, to play that role.
Well, I wasn't that guy. I didn't get to be the jerk. I got to be, it's funny. I was a businessman who was kind of funding the blind guy swims across Long Island Sound to gather money and to kind of be inspirational. And I'm the businessman who's funding it. And I get to start the race. And they gave me a gun. They said, "Oh, you're American."
Oh, you could shoot a gun.
They were British, they were Australian, and I don't know. This rumor started I was from Texas, which and they're like,
he's from Texas. Let him shoot the gun.
So like when the whole Alec Baldwin thing happened,
yeah, I was gonna say that's what it made me think.
I thought, how could that happen?
Right.
This could, and
look
like
at-
15 seconds. This is why I'm open-minded, Wendy.
Right.
And I thought, oh, wait a second, I've shot a gun.
Well, there weren't real bullets, so
No, it was a starting pistol, but the thing, it was a 22, and it was like, on your mark, get set, bang. And man, it was
loud, jarring.
loud,
and you had never shot a gun before.
Well, I actually had.
Okay. There you go.
I had fired shotguns and
figured
rifles
that
and
was
stuff.
you have with shotguns and rifles.
Correct. Yeah.
How do you know what you're shooting at?
Someone tells you. Like
That really makes me confident. I think I should go back to letting you drive the bus.
After this, we're going out onto 2nd Avenue and we're going to shoot. You know, Tim's going to throw up the disc and Wendy's going to say,
To the left.
Right. We'll see
can't-
if this actually works.
We can't let the MAGA people take over.
No,
Wendy.
we
gotta
can't.
fight
No.
back.
That's right. They
We
won't
gotta
even
fight
see
back.
it coming.
Exactly.
They won't even suspect us that
Now,
we're doing that.
one thing, speaking of making movies, tell us about your shirt you're wearing.
Well,
Well, I mean, it kind of loops around into a film. But...
Well, the shirt I'm wearing loops around only because it's funny. I knew you were a model, and I live on 26th Street and 7th Avenue, right on Fashion Avenue.
Oh yeah, you're right by FIT.
Right.
Yeah.
So every
know
day
exactly
I go
where
to,
you are.
I bring the kids to school in my old navy jeans and my Patagonia sweatshirt. And I joke around and say, they're going to make me move out of this neighborhood. But when you make independent films, you own a lot of old navy jeans.
Yeah.
Patagonia
You're
sweatshirts,
right. That's a uniform.
And it's, I call it my dad drag. Because I'm like when the kids were like 5, I was excited. I was like, oh, I'm a dad. I'm out here on the street.
Right.
And after like 5 and 6 and 7 and 8, I'm like, oh my God, how much can I wear these clothes
Right.
and do these same and walk up and down these street? I'm on the one hand, I'm very grateful. I mean, when there was a pandemic, there was no school. It was the worst thing ever. And so I'm always grateful. And I like walking out, breathing the fresh air. But then I think, my God, these clothes, these dishes, something has to give. Let's make a movie, Tim.
I love that. Something's got to give. Let's make a movie, Tim.
Right. So this shirt in particular comes from Mozambique.
Wow.
And I knew
African
that
thing.
you had done a lot of work and made a lot of films in Africa, Wendy.
Yeah.
So I'm so respectful and so
Thank you.
That's so
excited
sweet.
about your work. I thought,
Oh,
this will be good.
thoughtful.
Thank you. Africa's got a very special place in my heart. I went to Nigeria for 3 months when I was 21 years old. I was never the same after that. I lived with the Yoruba and the whole spirituality of the culture. As you know, I just lost my husband. I watched him transition. Those cultures completely embrace transitioning.
Mhm.
Here it's just like go into hospice and die.
Yeah,
It's
right,
not like
right.
that. That's not what it's like. And too many people here believe what they hear here, and it's not like
Mhm.
that at all. We all need to connect more. But this was interesting to me. Hold your arm up.
Okay.
Both Adam and I have not only the same colorways, but the shapes in what we're wearing today. And that was interesting because I had something totally different picked out to wear. I don't know what made me grab this at the last hour.
I love it.
I know, right?
Energy.
It's weird.
right?
Energy, right? Which is at the end of the day, it's the energy that makes us do what it is that we do. You amaze me. Okay. You're a dad, you're a filmmaker, you're an incredible speaker.
Oh, yeah.
Incredible speaker. And we're gonna, of course, roll the
Yeah, we
tape
have
that
a
we
video
picked out
that we want to do.
for you. You've been on PBS, some Moth Radio Hour. You do all of that. You were not born blind. You were born sighted.
Correct.
At what age ages? Because I got the feeling that it was progressive.
You know, that's very smart, Wendy, that you say that, because it wasn't, it's unless someone has an accident, it's
Right.
usually not overnight. So yeah,
Mhm.
I never had great vision in my left eye. And I had trouble with that at first when I was very young. I mean, 3, 4, 5. And the funny thing about vision is not sure I ever had very good stereoscopic
Mhm.
vision, but if you don't have it, you can't tell.
Right.
So things,
Right.
you know,
Right,
things
'cause
maybe,
it's who you are.
yeah. So things maybe looked a little flat to me, but I didn't. You know, I just went to school, and as long as I could read print,
And you could read print it. You
sure,
could, yeah.
oh sure. My
Yeah.
mom, like I said, my mom was a librarian. I grew up in the library. I think I read
Wow.
every single book, and I'm not kidding. You know, I just, you know, this is pre-babysitter days, right?
Right.
So,
So you were like what, 6 or 7 at this point?
yeah, or you know, but yeah, really, when I lost the sight of my right eye, which I went blind, you know, it happened when I was around 11, going to 12,
Such a
sixth
pivotal
grade.
age.
Wow.
Yeah. And now I look back, and especially with my own kids in the pandemic and school, and I think I didn't even miss a year of school. I mean, I was in the hospital pretty much the entire year of the 5th grade, and I had such excellent teachers that came,
Amazing.
brought work
To the hospital.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, you know, my mother had to
That's
fight
wonderful.
constantly.
Right, of
But
course.
it's, I mean, life is not a straight line. It's not simple. So
Nope.
yeah, I went to a public school. Was, you know, a big. So can I bring up my show, because this is
Yeah,
this is-
that,
yeah.
well, I was,
You're
so
right.
you and I were, and Tim are on the same wavelength. This was my segue.
Right.
So here's yeah.
So
Take it away.
So
Take it away.
the solo show that I just did, called Sped Kid, which is about growing up and going blind in 1984 Boston,
Wow.
and really the power of friendship to help me overcome some obstacles.
Right.
And so the arc of the show is I start off at St. Bridget's, you know, an all white parochial school, Catholic school, a few creepy, you know, the few creepy nuns, and one that I did like.
Okay, you had an affinity.
Sister Gilmore, I did like. But yeah, so at some point my vision dropped below a certain level, and I couldn't see the board anymore. And I had transitioned to a public school. Now, this was the height of the busing strife in Boston.
Yeah.
I mean, there, you know, people were throwing rocks at buses, and kids were, you know, the police were, you know, it was every day in the news that it was very stressful. So here I am losing my sight. And instead of going to the little school near the house that my mother feels comfortable with, I'm being bused an hour across town to this huge public school.
Right.
But it was the first time in my life that I met other kids that were disabled, that had vision problems. So instead of being made fun of because I couldn't play hockey and I couldn't box, that was, you know, I couldn't do any contact sports.
You had camaraderie of the other kids.
Yeah. So the first day, you know, I met these kids from all over the city. You know, I met Cambodian kids who had polio, who were in wheelchair, you know.
And we're Cambodian to boot, so the language thing. Yeah.
And but then, you know, now speaking some, you know, English. And you know, I met kids from Roxbury, which is a way of saying black kids and albino kids. And like, all of a sudden, you know, we were all friends and we were all in the same boat. So even though I was going to the doctors all the time in the hospital, we were all kind of going through the same thing.
Wow.
You know, but that's an interesting grouping of friends, because and didn't you realize or learn that you're all really the same? Even though you're different.
Well, it's funny. We all pulled together because, of course, all the kids, the other kids at the school, like looked at us pulling up in our short bus, and in the very first day, I'll give away something from the play. They looked at us like we were animals,
and or made fun of.
They didn't even make fun of us. That was the thing, Wendy. They didn't even make fun of us because they didn't even talk to us because they were kind of scared of us, like we were bad.
In your little bus, the baddies in the little bus,
like we were bad voodoo. And my mother used to say it, and I think it was true. Like, they don't want to become blind. You know what I mean? They don't want. You know, they're
no. Oh my God! You know what, Adam? You just hit on something, and it's blind. It's any kind of challenge that a person has physically. People can sometimes act like it's catching. Right.
I mean, as you know, some of the comedy, I'm like, you know, blind is Bible bad. I mean, blind is so bad.
No, you're right. You're right.
Jesus has to spit in people's face so they're not blind anymore. I mean, like, blind has been bad for so friggin' long.
Blind is Bible bad.
Yeah. Like, I mean, like, kids could go home and just be like blind, and the parents be like, over here, hide. You know?
I have an odd question for you.
Of course, that's my favorite kind.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. You're right at home here. It's perfect.
You had mentioned you could see when you were young.
Yes.
So you have memories of visual images.
Yes.
Do you now interpret, like when you're in an environment or something, can you see it based upon your past experience of being able to see
That-
or is it completely different?
Not an odd question at all. An excellent question.
That's an excellent question.
And I don't know, my idea of an interview, Tim, I love to just like ponder stuff.
Yeah,
and
so
think about- right?
that's what we're about. That's great.
So it's like, okay, because I was losing my sight in one eye, I mean, my mother will never admit this, but I think that she always thought if he goes blind, I want him to see a lot of things. So we used to come to New York a ton.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah, so it's like, I went to the Met a lot. And now I look back, I'm like 7, 8, 9 years old. Do you remember the King Tut exhibit? Do you remember that?
To see
Yes.
all of that.
King
Your mother,
Tut, Pompeii, Andy
Right.
Warhol, El Greco. Like
Your mother was bringing you in to see all of that.
yes, all of that stuff. And I mean, I don't even want to start. I may start crying. I don't, but I mean, it's like, I don't think my mother,
God
if
bless
you held
her.
a gun to her head, she wouldn't say that's why.
Right.
But I mean, I remember walking around, we stayed at this hotel called the Summit, which was on the lower, like right near the lower end of the park. And just like guys like doing 3-card Monte and selling like, you remember opium perfume?
Yeah.
Right? like New York, like the big lights and everything in Broadway, and just be like, you want some opium?
Yeah.
Right. And it's just like all of that is emblazoned in my mind. So it's like, of course I can picture Al Pacino and like what it looks like and everything. And it's like, as people are getting older, I'm like, Jesus, I don't like all these older stars that are dying. I think they're my point of reference.
Right.
Like,
Well, they're probably frozen in your head the way they were.
Of course, which they would love. I'm thinking, like I was at the Real Abilities Film Festival, which I'm involved with, and Whoopi Goldberg was talking, and I'm like, Whoopi, I remember what you looked like when you were young, very young, right? And it's like, I'm a resource,
right?
But yeah, so yeah, Al Pacino and Meryl Streep and everything, they're all in there. All still young, all in, Dustin Hoffman.
I'm going to tell you something funny. I tend to freeze people at the 20-year mark. Don't ask me why. So when I see them and they've changed, I know that they've changed, but when I'm talking to them, they're back at the 20.
Yeah, that's nice.
It's a bizarre thing about me. It's an inability to, I don't know what it is. Maybe I don't want to face what's right in front of me. I want to remember them like that. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, the brain. Who knows? We don't know how the brain works. Right?
Yeah.
It's like we'll be walking down the street, and it's amazing how many people don't realize Nadia is a seeing eye dog. Like that's not taught in school anymore.
Oh my goodness!
Like I used to, everybody knew what a seeing eye. People don't know, and like so people will bang into me and not know I'm blind, and my mother's like, "It's because you're so young." I'm like, Mom, I'm not that young. Right. It would have nothing to do with it, but I'm not that young anyway.
Well, there's also a lack of awareness and sensitivity out there. I mean, even navigating streets now is like, for us who are sighted. I mean, this bike thing, and I'm not attacking the people that love riding their bikes, but this is a nightmare. Lanes. Yeah. And I can't believe it's been put through. I don't even think we're hearing the numbers of human beings that are being hit and hurt every day, including some of the bikers. Because you open up I did it the other night. I checked, I opened up the cab door. That guy came by so quick. He was lucky that he got through, but he would have gone flying. I mean, it's one of these, I do, running and biking and swimming with a group. You have a group, right? Yeah, we do, mostly in Central Park. So it's like, I'm not anti-biking at all, but we need to share the space. We need to share the space safely. Let me just add in.
We'll have respect for each other.
Yeah, so it's like, of course, elderly people who are my crowd, because they're all, waiting with the light with me, people in their 80s and 90s, like, look out, young man. And I'm like, yes, you look out. And literally, we're linking arms because, we're looking out for each other. I'm like, I'll hold you up if you fall, and you make sure I don't, get hit by that speeding bike.
There you go, deal.
Well, thank goodness for Nadia also. You're seeing eye dog, who is really she's down here. We'll see. There. But Sped Kid,
right? We got off on tangents all the time, but I have it right here.
We've got a video here. So and that is from
no. That's the library, which is very apropos. Right. I didn't know about your mother when I picked that video. I didn't know your mother was a librarian. So this video now has a lot more meaning.
And even the videographer, I think there are shots of her. Unfortunately, I can't point them out. But she's as always. She's sitting there right in the front row.
Oh, I'd love that. Wow. Okay, well, let's take a look at Adam Linn.
Since I moved to New York in 2001, this library has been a home away from home for me. It's my office when everyone in my home is driving me crazy. And I thought, if this were one of my essays, what would I call our conversation today? And I'm racking my brain, and I'm like, okay, something like books and Braille and computers and love. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there's something there, but not quite right. Like misadventures in the library. And I was like, getting closer. And I really couldn't come up with it. I was driving everybody crazy. And I thought, I think when you have a very dark truth to tell, when the real essence of your being is being put out there, it is not easy to talk about. And I thought, my God, this is some dark stuff I'm delving into. I am addicted to reading. I am addicted to books. I have been my whole life. This is my confessions of a bookaholic, because I cannot live without books. Members of my family, I remember my grandparents and everyone were like, oh, he can't really read. He's too little. He can't read. He's just memorizing the books and then speaking them back. And I was at my great aunt Helen's house one afternoon, and I said, Helen, I can read. And she said, really? You can read? Then read that. And she pointed at this bottle on the table. And I peered at it and I said, okay, it says Valium. Do not operate heavy machinery, right? And she's like, oh my God, he can read. When I was in the fourth grade, transitioning to the fifth grade, my vision started to fail, my college years in New England. So when school ended, I felt a bit adrift. I was at a loss. I thought, here are my friends, they're going off to Wall Street, and they're going off to become lawyers and moving into Washington and doing all these things. And I knew I wasn't ready. Books tend to help me put together a map in my head, both physical and emotional, that bring me to a place. She would kind of be somewhere in the depths of the house asleep while I sat in her parents' room reading Lolita. So I've actually become a character in a Haruki Murakami story. I have had a very, very exceptional life and a very fun life. And it's because of books. And it is so important for me to express to you today that, I never would have done any of this without access to Braille and without access to digital books. And blind people are important. And people who cannot read because of other disabilities are important. And librarians are important. And I need all of you in this room to keep doing the work you do so I can keep living my life. Thank you.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, thank you so much.
On so many levels, your mother had such a profound influence on you. And I tend to think what you said, she was cramming in the memories for you because your vision was going. And I'm a mother. I tried to put myself in her place. What do you do when you have a child and that's happening and you can't stop it for whatever reasons? I don't know what the condition was, but it was a degenerative condition. So your mother crammed in all those memories.
But boy, did she ever pick some amazing
visuals
Thank
you, Tim.
For you to store.
And the look of pride on her face when you're
yeah.
speaking at the library there was just, this is full circle stuff.
Yeah.
Really amazing.
You'll make me cry when
I know. We cry. I cry easily. I walk around crying all the time.
My goal is to make Tim cry.
Yeah, Tim cries
that's
too.
Nothing. Yeah,
that's
easy.
pretty easy.
I thought Tim's a tough Midwestern guy.
No. So we had been talking about everything that came before and what led to Sped Kid.
Sure. So it's ironic that we watch this video that my mom is in, because Sped Kid, like all, I think, and I'm going to blow my own horn, it's a good memoir. It's,
right.
Like all good memoirs about childhood, it's really about a parent. Like Angela's Ashes, which is one of my favorites. It's not really about him growing up in Ireland. It's about his mother.
I know him also. He's Adam. I'm in Milford, Pennsylvania. His house is right in town. He's our claim to fame.
Oh my God.
That's quite a book. But yeah, it's
So I set out writing, and I didn't realize it's about my mom and about all the fights that she had. Like, make sure I went to the right doctors.
Right. That's a whole thing.
Thank you for talking about this, because at the end of the day, I mean, this is what it is. It's advocacy. Okay.
We called it fighting, but now they call it advocacy.
Advocacy, but you know, your mother was educated enough so she could do that. What makes me so sad, and you said it in your school, that the public school, a lot of those kids, because they were inner city or because they came from Cambodia, the parents didn't have the language, or they didn't have the ability to get around the system to fight for their child that they wanted to fight for. Your mother had the skill set.
And that's, I didn't even realize, I'm kind of, that I have, of course, but that I have like a bit of survivor's guilt. Because look, my mother then was making sure that I took the test to go to the better, to the highest schools and everything.
Because they would have backburnered.
You went to Harvard.
Yeah. And so
they would have backburnered you otherwise. You know that.
Yeah. So it's like, I lived with I didn't have a dad, but I had lived with my grandparents. So even throughout the piece, my grandfather is training me in mathematics and woodworking and stuff. My grandmother's there to mind me after school. They're there to drive me to
the
things.
Support system.
And it's like, surprise, surprise, this is the kid that gets to have a chance to have opportunities. And I feel like this tremendous survivor's guilt, because at the time I was just doing the best I could. I was losing my sight, for Christ's sake, right?
Yeah.
But now I look back and I think, man, these other kids, they had it tough too, and they didn't even have the parents that had the wherewithal to fight and fight. And it's like, wow, I am really blessed. And it's like,
you're blessed, but you're also paying it forward. Every time you get up there and you speak, you pay it forward.
Oh, thanks, Wendy. I hope so. I don't always feel that way. Let's one brick at a time. I hope I'm doing somebody some good. I thought it was Tim in my movie. I thought I was helping Tim.
I thought you were helping the deli guy. And what was his kid?
Ahab.
Ahab
Didn't even want to be in the movie.
Yeah.
That was the funny thing.
His father was like, "You'll be in the movie."
Ahab.
We're making $500. Ahab, you'll be in the movie.
I might be blind, but I'm not nice, because I'm thinking, yeah, we'll shoot Ahab here, and then we'll go home and cut him, and you won't be able to do anything about it, deli man.
That's genius, by the way. That's your T-shirt. I may be blind, but I'm not nice. I want one. You have to do that, man. I totally want one. I had a question for you. What happened to you at the Louisiana Center for the Blind?
Oh, okay. So just to try and we'll put everything here in context.
Yeah, we will.
Okay, so we're talking about I'm 12 years old, I go blind. Okay, boom. Then I go to college. I finish high school, I go to college. Blah blah blah. Speeding forward after school. I didn't, in that, I allude to that in that piece where I say everybody I know is going off to Wall Street, becoming lawyers, Washington, whatever. And I thought, I need some more skills. Just, I do laundry. I need to be able to get around without.
Oh, I absolutely.
And it's like, because you're in a college campus, it's kind of a fish tank.
Right.
You're going to a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit. It's not the same thing as living in the city and being on your own.
Right.
So the Louisiana Center is this fantastic center in which blind adults go, and it's what they call vocational rehab, but it's life skills.
It's life skills.
Life skills.
We need to get right.
And really, it's almost a redo of Sped Kid, because it was the first time in my life, because I knew a lot of visually impaired kids when I was younger and stuff, but I didn't know a lot of fully blind kids, like kids reading Braille and everything. And it was the first time in my life I met, other blind men and women, and so, a lot of things happened that, helped me transition from being a college kid to an adult. And so, I mean, but it's like,
you were able to get the skills that you needed to survive as an adult.
Right. But that's where I learned to shoot a shotgun. Louisiana,
for God's sakes, why am I not surprised?
And I mean, yes, you think, it was a nice little thing where he learned to squirt, every day, every single day. I used to have to cross a train track, and the first day, the teacher was like, you can laugh, I'm alive.
Oh my God.
Have you ever touched a train with your cane? And I'm like, no, I haven't, and I don't want to.
Yeah,
and I mean,
or the third rail for that matter.
Oh my God, I learned
to teach you this.
I learned how to fry a turkey, which is not easy with 5 gallons of boiling peanut oil and a 30-pound turkey, and you throw it in with a rope. And I learned how to use a circular saw. I made some beautiful woodworking. I mean, They do not fool around there.
Wow.
That's amazing.
We went rock climbing in Western Texas.
Wow.
We went down to Juarez. I went to Mardi Gras. I think I got thrown out of Mardi Gras, which is not
It was
easy
a good
to do.
Mardi Gras
I
there.
guarantee you might have known people who get thrown out of bars. They don't get thrown out of Mardi Gras. That takes some work. So yeah,
Takes dedication.
So that was Louisiana Center. So I think I came out of that
Wow.
a different like the person.
So
that's
that is
doing it.
I
always
Phenomenal place.
I always think even just like the simplest things, like sometimes I'll drop a screw and it's frustrating for me to get down and find it with sight.
Right.
Like how, like, I can't imagine the challenges that you have been through.
Try doing that with a 10-month-old in the house.
Oh,
and you're thinking, if you don't find that screw, that
Right.
screw will find her esophagus.
exactly. Exactly.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Can this show go 4 hours?
Yeah.
Do we have
No, I know. I hear you.
So, so Sped Kid.
Yeah.
That's where we started it all. So Sped Kid encompasses this.
Well, Sped Kid is just a year in my life. It's 1984. It's a lot of Michael Jackson, Prince. I got heavily into breakdancing. So it's like, okay, this guy's going blind, but I wasn't like sitting around crying, eating soup. I mean, no, that's not, still like wrestling.
That's what's so
and
amazing.
ninjas. And because that's what kids are. Kids are not, they don't mope around for the most part. They're in the moment. So it's like I jump in the bus in the morning and the kids who are there are my friends. And we're listening to Rick James, Super Freak, and having fun.
You're doing what kids do.
Yeah, and I mean, it's city kids, so like, yes, we ran into a lot, some trouble, and my deteriorating sight was a factor. But the play is hopeful. It's fun. I mean, I describe myself as the comedian who makes everyone cry because I think I'm funny, but then everyone's weeping.
But you think you're funny.
Well, I think I'm delving into
because you look at the emotional points you're hitting with people.
Yeah.
These are hard subjects.
Absolutely.
For people.
And that's why I'm so proud of you.
Oh, that's all
for
we talk
taking
about
all
is
of
hard.
this on.
Because it's like people. My mom used to say to me, "Oh, learn to laugh at yourself." Well, I mean, that's easy to say to me now.
Not when you're a kid.
Come on, when you were 10
your
years
sight,
old, 12 years old, you
losing
couldn't
your
laugh at
sight.
yourself, Tim, or
Nothing
Wendy.
funny.
Yeah, people made fun of you in certain ways. It's like, or my mother would always say, like, turn your back on these bullies. I'm like, Mom, this is torture. So they will jump on my back.
Yeah, right. Hit me on the back of the head.
Exactly. So that's easy. You get a lot of cliched advice in life, and you can't.
People don't know what to say, so they give you cliches.
Yeah, I'm sure she was trying the best she could to give you the best advice she knew. And
I mean, it's like, maybe some people can do that. I couldn't. People mature.
Yeah.
I think for me, I became an adult maybe around 30. And I'm not kidding.
That's fine. At least you did. There's a lot of guys I know that my husband used to tell me that, a lot of men really don't grow up until they're in their like mid to late 40s. I'm like, oh my God.
This is me saying that.
Right.
I suspect there are several women in this city who could probably I have been called compared to a 12-year-old and a teenager later in life, but that's the arts.
But that is a good point. That is the arts.
But now, Sped Kid, you had a very successful run here.
Thank Tim. Okay, when I bring it back, you and Wendy are sitting in the front row.
Absolutely.
I want to hear you crying, and I won't fall off the stage because the artistic director, Wendy Lane Bailey, who I love dearly, was terrified I would fall off the stage. And it's funny because this is something I wanted to talk about. I mean, I'm used to being blind. I've been blind for a long time.
Right.
Right. I'm not going to now. Someone who went blind last week might fall off a stage.
Right.
No,
I'm not going to. I've done. When I was a kid, I did martial arts, and we used to do. When I was blind, on stage at the Wang Center on New Year's Eve, which was great. I look back and I think, oh, that was good training. Right. I mean, good. I'm not going to bore everyone with the word proprioception.
No, tell me what that word means.
Proprioception is the way your body feels. Like you pick up a coffee cup and you're drinking it, and it's like you look at all the muscles that you're moving.
Right.
That you're walking
That's
downstairs with
someone like you would be aware of, and most people. I didn't even think of it until you said it.
Oh, and I'll double down because I like to surprise people. So a couple of years ago, I had brain surgery, and it was quite serious, and I really didn't feel good for almost a year.
Oh my goodness!
Jesus Christ! You
can't kill me, Wendy. I'm like a cockroach.
You are.
They're like, why is he 52 and still doing this? I'm going to be doing it at 82.
God bless you. Absolutely.
So I lost my proprioception for a while. So it's like I could walk the kids to school, but I didn't have the balance. My foot couldn't. Sorry,
Yeah.
can I touch you here?
Your foot knew where it was supposed to.
My foot touches the curb, and it knows where it is, and it's like you can see with your whole body. This guy ran into me the other day on the street, and I was like 6 feet tall, younger than me, wearing sunglasses. He's got on a silky jacket, and all this information.
Goodness.
It's not magic. It's just that you take it in. And so,
but that is what I meant. Your instinct is more developed in a different way than Tim's or mine.
But I don't. But if I covered Tim's ears, not that we're going to make Tim an experiment. We're experimenting on Tim
most of my life.
But like if you're eating potato chips and you can't hear the crunch, they taste different. That is true.
I never even thought about that.
That is true.
I never even thought about that.
And so, like,
Adam's making me think about things I never thought.
That's my job. I'm the comedian who makes people think and cry and not laugh.
Right. We should serve the potato chips at Spit Kid when you do it.
Yes.
And talk to people about their experience. I never thought about that. Now I'm going to go and buy chips.
Right.
And see like what it means to me.
But I don't hear better. But I'm in Trader Joe's with my family all the time. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe they're playing this Tom Petty song again. And they're looking at me like, what? There's music on?
Yeah.
Because I'm not seeing the 30 colors of zucchini. Right. So your brain's like a computer. It can only do so much.
Well, and also you would, since you're not focused on the visual, you would be more focused on the audio. That's what is happening around you. Most definitely.
Right. And sometimes that's good. But like a siren that will go, and it doesn't really bother my kids that much. And I'm like, my head's about to explode.
But I would have to think you are more developed, or a person that doesn't have sight is more developed in certain areas than someone that did, just from your amount of time, the years you have been blind for, that parts of your brain are developed way differently than Tim's or mine.
Right. So let's get an MRI machine next time. We'll do a show and put Tim in the MRI.
Adam, they have to be doing these things like right now with people. They absolutely should.
fMRI, they call it, I think, right? Yeah, where they can look at brain waves.
Yeah.
But
and brain scans.
Yeah, I'm doing the one-man show. And, it's just... We've all seen a New York one-man show. I've got a chair on a stage in a black box theater. A little bigger than that. It's the Theater 1 at Theater Row, which is a beautiful space.
The Lion Theater, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. It used to be called the Lion. Now they call it Theater 1. But so we only had 2 hours to tech. And it's so funny because people are saying to me, like on Broadway, like, a blind actor needs several weeks to tech.
Love it. You did it in that voice too.
Right. And it's like, and I'm like, okay, if you want to fight for that, that's fine. But in reality, and Tim knows this about me being a guerrilla filmmaker, I go jump in a lake. It's the next way to say it, because like you can insist on that, but it's not going to happen. That everyone else got 1 hour. They were nice enough to give me 2 hours, and I needed every minute of it. It took me a little longer to set up, but 2 hours. So I could get up. I did my break dancing. I did my kung fu. I walk around. There's some parts where I'm kind of I'm young and I'm going blind and I'm learning to walk, and I start here and I walk there. It's I'm not going to fall off the stage.
Right.
It's
right, because I think your brain puts its own parameters.
Right. I shouldn't jinx myself. We rehearsed, of course, and of course I'm a little I'm aware when I'm closer to the edge of the stage, and it's great to hear the audience. This is why all of my shows should be sellouts.
Right.
So come and buy tickets so I don't fall off the stage.
Oh, absolutely. No, I think a show like this is so important.
Right. I agree. And you're also going to be doing it. You don't have dates set in Boston.
No. So the show is
going to be in Boston.
It's very much a Boston show. I mean, I grew up there, Boston. Like,
they support you because you're a local boy.
I hope so. So I'm from Dorchester, which is like saying you're from the Bronx. Or from Brooklyn.
I'm from the Bronx.
Yes, I know, right? So the Dorchester is the Bronx, and there's all these groups online, people saying they're originally from Dorchester.
And you're like, who the hell are you?
And I'm like, originally from Dorchester? I'm always from Dorchester. I'm on the Champs-Elysees, and someone walks into me, I'm like, hey, guy, and use some rough language, right? I'm from Dorchester, and that's why I'm tough.
Right.
Right. So I want to bring the show there, and I really want to do it in Dorchester. I mean, people, go to school in Boston, and they're like, I know Beacon Hill, and it's like, okay, great.
Great.
I know the Upper East Side. Right. I'm quite familiar, with So I'd like to bring it to the neighborhoods and do it. And really, what I've been thinking though, and this is where Tim, where you come in.
Okay.
So Sped Kid needs to be a movie.
Okay.
And of course, I was always at first I was thinking to myself, like everybody, oh, maybe someone will come and buy the screen rights to my one man show. I mean, this happens. I know
Absolutely.
people.
Yeah, that does happen.
This happens, but I mean, part of me, Tim, I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm sick of waiting.
I'm
sick and tired of waiting for sighted people to tell me my story is good or interesting. Right. I mean, we talked a little bit about the TV show that I've developed. That Warner Brothers paid me, and I developed a TV show called Rather Go Blind.
Right, the Rather Go Blind.
Right. Excellent experience.
About that.
Great experience. And I learned the lesson that so many people have learned. I knew it. I mean, I sat for a month. The first year, this is a couple of years, this process has gone on. It was very exciting, and I did several pilots, and
and Warner Brothers got behind you.
Yeah, in something called the 150 Project, which was essentially Warner Brothers. So they got bought up by Discovery, but whatever. Then I ended up in a year of meetings with people saying like, I don't know, what if you give the guy a sister or not, or make him a Siamese twin?
Right.
Develop. And we've all been there. We've all been there. So I mean, the beauty of being blind is like, or something, right? I mean, it's not even that fun. That's my idea. It's more like, can we make it up? Can we make the guy younger and maybe with a llama? I don't know. No, that's my idea again. But my point is like, I could sit on my ass and wait for years and years and complain about it's not going to get done. And the thing could happen when it's bedtime. Let's just make the movie, Tim. Let's get some money. Tim, you can come and be a nun.
I'll be the nun that you like.
Actually, I'm thinking Tim could be a gangster.
I would love
that. I like people to play against type.
Yeah, I've never seen him as a gangster.
Yeah, Tim is like a sweet guy, a nice guy, and isn't that the scariest guy?
When
he turns,
because you don't expect that guy.
Right. When the evil comes from Tim, man, you don't know which way to look. So I'm like, my wonderful director, who I have to mention, Pangea Restaurant, was the director of Sped Kid.
I saw his name. He's handsome too.
Oh, he's very handsome, and he looks like me. Let's just say he's extremely handsome.
He's very handsome.
The first time I hired him, my wife went online and goes, "Oh, he looks like you." And I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't have a director who looks just like you. But now the interesting thing is, so Pangea is hard of hearing. I did not know this.
Oh my goodness!
This is a really wonderful twosome.
This is the amazing thing.
This is great.
I call him up because he's a well-known director, and I was lucky to get him. And he's admitted to me, he's like, well, I said, were you reluctant to have a blind actor to work with? He goes, yeah, I was a little afraid. I didn't know how you'd get to the theater. Then it turns out he's deaf. I'm like, not or hard of hearing, whatever you want to call it. He wears 2 hearing aids. And it's like, so when the stage manager talks behind him, he can't hear her. Right. And I'm in front on the stage. I'm like, I have to translate. Yeah. So she talks, then I talk. And
you can't make this stuff up.
Right. You never do things easily.
Excuse me, this is a play in itself.
But it's a play in itself. But the thing that I didn't realize, this is where I talk about evolution, Wendy. It's like, because I don't know of all the answers. I don't freaking know, right? And
none of us do.
No, none of us do. And it's like, by hiring someone who was hard of hearing or whatever, okay, maybe he doesn't hear me sometimes, but he doesn't other me.
Right.
And people, the nicest people in the world.
You talk about the othering and the things I've read about.
Yeah. And it's like, I have worked with the most progressive, the most, you're going to see them at any, kind of AIDS benefit, nicest guys or whatever. And they think I'm different than them. They can't focus. They can't picture a world in which they're blind, and they treat me.
They don't know. Okay, now I'm going to bring it.
Almost treat you as an outsider.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring up society.
Right.
They're not. What do we do in our society to help people treat people equally, to recognize? I hate even using the word disability, to recognize someone's challenge. Like I watched you walk in here. There's 3 steps. Tim, I saw going over, but I immediately focused on the 3 steps. I saw you had the dog, but I also know it's narrow over there. I'm like, what is that going to be like for him? You were already over there. Yeah. That's the sensitivity. There could have been 10 other people sitting here. You would have come in.
But then again, I mean, I don't know if this is too much information, but you had went to the bathroom, needed to use a bathroom, which is a very narrow space.
It's a narrow space.
I helped you get in there, and then I went back to help you get out, and you were already out.
Right. But you were fine with that.
You take care of yourself. You figure out ways. Now, how do we bridge that understanding
the thing about the other
society?
Well, right. Because everyone is
how do we do that?
We all have to be super nice to each other. That's how we start.
That's a great start.
Because I mean, someone who's blind, who just went blind a few weeks ago, might come in the door. They have different needs than me.
Absolutely.
And it's like, a narrow space is actually really easy for me to get around. I mean,
you can touch perimeters, maybe.
My wife and I, we were in Spain, and we stayed in Toledo at this ancient house. And she thought, my God, this is the worst place in the world for Adam. This, like, it was almost
low
like
ceiling,
big room.
but I could find my way around it so easily because it was very small and very linear.
Right.
And even though like the bathroom was up on the 3rd floor and there was an outdoor area, and if you were in a modern apartment where it's this one big room, and the
that would be harder.
That's hard for me to navigate.
There's no perimeters. If you can have space delineated for you, it makes
that makes total sense.
It makes it much easier.
And I have a very good mind. Like I remember the grid because I'm a Manhattanite.
Right.
So, okay, we go to the bathroom. We go. Oops, sorry.
So break the place
and again,
down.
mental note, lamp overhead.
Mental note: don't throw arms around when you're flying.
Right. Next time you're here,
and you're in front of a camera.
Judge the space.
But you mentioned a couple times your wife.
Yeah.
Tell us about your wife.
Oh,
I want to hear more about you.
We've been almost married 11 years. So when does she get to be long suffering putting up with me? No, my wife she would want me to tell you, I can't, words like adjectives like wonderful and fantastic, they're empty words. I mean, my wife grew up in Brazil, always helping people. I mean,
okay, it says it right there.
I mean, we were in Brazil. This is after we were married. We're in Brazil and we're driving along a country road. And she goes, "Oh, that's the leper colony where I used to work."
Oh,
and
I mean,
right. And I'm like, Juliana, that's the kind of thing people would bring up on a first date. You know what I mean? That's the kind of thing like they would want to brand. It wouldn't just come up, but that's how she is. And so she wanted, Brazil was great, and she grew up with a lot of doctors and people in the know there. And she could have had a very comfortable life there, and she didn't want that. And she left and she went to Africa in the around 2006 or 7. I hope I have that date right. And she is an expert in HIV. And
God!
In Africa, that is, I knew nothing about this before I met her. The numbers,
I know all about those numbers.
40%, 50%, 60%. Some of these small countries in Southern and Eastern Africa, and she is a person who knows how to roll up her sleeves and get things done. And she built clinics. And
I can't even touch this. It's
unbelievable. But this is why I wanted to talk a little bit about my stuff.
How did you meet her?
On the A train.
Talk about things supposing to happen. That's Tim rides that train.
I've been riding that train for 41 years. I still haven't found my part.
So this is why I'm saying, Wendy, we need 2 hours. Because but Wendy's looking at the clock. I used to when my kids were born, I freaked out for a minute. This is after we made movies. I was like, oh my God, I need to make money.
Mm-hmm.
So along with some friends, I started a company called Story Behind the Store, which essentially was filmmaking, but we were making films for small businesses using QR codes. So like, for instance, Pangea could have had someone who works there, could have just said, "Hey, this is Pangea. Today's our special, and we're shooting a show here." And you put on a sticker with a QR code, and people could come by and read it. So this was my business, and we were, worked out of my friend's apartment up on 190th Street, up way uptown. So I used to take the A train every day to go up there, and she and my wife lived up there on 190th Street. So she used to see me on the train all the time, and as once you hit 160, 170, 180, the train clears out.
Right.
So
not as many people.
Yeah. So we were actually online, and I met her online, and she said, "I think I might know you, but I'm not sure."
Wow, come on, the chances
so
of that.
I went and met her for dinner at this place called Blue Evolution. Do you remember Blue Evolution was up there? That's now closed.
I'm not sure.
It's around. Yeah, it was around 190. And I came around the corner, and she said, "Oh my God, you're the guy from the A Train." And
this is such an incredible story.
Yeah,
I'm imagining you even on the A train. You had to count stops. How did? Nadia's not going to tell you.
Well, this was pre-Nadia, because before kids, I wouldn't get a dog because they're a lot of work, right?
Right.
So I was a footloose and fancy-free bachelor, kind of, right? I would just
count stops.
Yeah, well, yeah, and they announced it, and in 190.
They don't always.
No, they don't
know
always.
This. I mean, I imagine there's times when you were like riding around.
Oh, if you're on the subway and a panicked person who may or not be blind says, "Is this 59th? Is this 59th Street?" Yeah. I mean, just be, please answer. Yeah, because people are like, "What? Huh? I'm looking at my phone."
Wow.
Yeah, she thought I looked dynamic and youthful and that I might make a nice boyfriend.
And again,
and we met, and that was it.
And that's what I love is the two of you are so perfectly matched in the fact that challenges, you're always up for meeting challenges and moving ahead.
We're perfectly matched. We're both very, very bullheaded. Right. I mean, like usually with couples, one kind of gives in.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh man, we're not good. I have to say, we are not good at that. I mean, I want to make a movie, Tim, and you want me to make a movie because I want to put you in it.
Right.
But my wife wants to, start a telemedicine business in Spain and help some, orphans in East Africa.
Right.
So it's like, whew, man, we're kind of always both fighting for limited real estate, mental real estate. So. Yeah.
Well, you both have visions. You both have strong personalities.
Right.
You amaze me by telling me of course she worked in a leper colony.
Yeah.
I mean, through
and just so casually.
I mean, the pandemic happened and we were watching the TV, it was all unfolding, and Tony Fauci came on the TV, and I'm listening, and she's like, "Oh, you know him, you know that, right?" I'm like, "Huh?" She's like, "Oh yeah, you remember you came to that thing with me at Columbia? You met him."
Oh,
I was like, my mother has impure thoughts. She loves this man so much. And I'm like, Mom, did you know I know Tony Fauci? But that's the problem with I can't always remember fate. Like at a big party or a big gathering, I meet someone and it's like, oh, I met him.
That's so funny.
But I remember meeting him. But
mother has impure thoughts.
Oh my God, oh my God, she loves Tony Fauci too much. I'm jealous. I'm an only child. I can't handle it.
Really, your story is incredible. Your story is
Absolutely.
inspirational, and you're beyond all that. You are freaking fun to hang out with. I now understand why Tim is like.
He and I are like the same spirit.
Right.
I'm like, this is why I love this guy. It's like me.
Right.
So I have to say, you are just such a brilliant essayist. And speaker.
Exactly.
You're an actor and a filmmaker and a theatrical producer, and your father and husband.
A lot of
and
ends.
You have no idea the admiration that I have for you.
Thank you so much, Tim.
I added into the end of it in my head. Oh, and by the way, he's blind.
Oh,
because all those other things are what I see for you. And then I think of the last thing, that makes things different for you than it would for us. And you're freaking knocking it out of the ballpark.
Oh, thank you so much, Wendy. Sometimes it's last, sometimes it's first. I think with all of us were their identities, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's right. Exactly. Right. I want to talk about, because I know you also wrote a novel, a dark comedy for dark times, American Sexy. I read a little bit about it. Tell us about your book.
It's funny. I wrote this book. This was back in 2012, which of course, to me is yesterday, but for normal people, that's a long time ago. Right. It's called American Sexy. The subtitle, The Diary of Katie Blubb. And I think about it all the time nowadays because it's about a teenage girl growing up in Brooklyn, or a little bit older, who's obsessed with beauty and obsessed with essentially now
celebrity and beauty.
I have a 13-year-old daughter who, may or may not rob Sephora. Right, like I'm always like, please, my phone rings, and I'm like, please don't let it be the police. Please don't let it be the police, because she's like, I was in Sephora. I'm like, don't take anything, because she's obsessed, and it's TikTok and everything. So my book is slightly before that, but and in the book, Katie Blubb wants to be beautiful. She goes on TV with an evil reality TV star who's a megalomaniac, who has dyed blonde hair, and doesn't like women very much, and so that sounds familiar, doesn't it? Yeah, and Katie, of course, she has adventures, and she meets a blind singer who he himself wants to be famous, and the dangers of losing ourselves and wanting fame and wanting other people to tell us that we're good enough. Because I don't believe, Tim, that you haven't ever felt that way. I know I've felt that way, and I can't believe.
Oh my God! Are you kidding? The rejection from this industry, although I've learned how to deal with it.
Sweetie,
a lot better.
Just the past 2 weeks for me of rejection.
But we have to get through it. It's what we do.
The one thing is so important for me to say, and what I love about you, Tim, and what I love about you, Wendy, and so you said all those nice things about me. Thank you. But you do it yourself, Tim. Like, the 50 Shades of Gay, you with your own podcast. It's like you could sit around at home and hope that people are going to do it. Instead, we're here.
Nobody's doing it for me.
No, I love this. This is so much better than going and having 2 seconds on CNN. Like, like,
Right.
love us. right. Like,
But I will tell you, and I've told Tim this, and we've had this, it's exhausting.
Yes,
of course.
it is.
There's not one moment of the day where we're not promoting. My husband was in the hospital for 5 months till he passed. I couldn't even write. You know how bad that made me feel? Every time I'd sit down to write a parody or something funny,
Right.
I couldn't find it.
No.
Now it's like all over the place. I can't stop writing.
Right.
But these things impact people like us, and no one is serving it up to any of us on a silver platter. It would make it easier, is all I'm saying. Hello, I'm preaching to the converted.
A little, yeah. So a little bit of money and a little bit of leeway would be nice.
Right. And somebody like just taking that path and taking you along the way, and that goes.
But again, rather than sit around and wait
We're
for
not
somebody else to
sit
do
around.
it,
We
need to do it ourselves.
yeah.
That's why I am so
totally
in on Sped Kid the movie.
Yes,
you let me know what you need from me.
Yeah, we might love John Waters, but if I went up to him as a blind teenager and said, "John, help me make a movie," he wouldn't know how. I had to do it myself.
Right.
And it took me this long to figure this out.
Well,
yeah.
but that's how it is. You
Absolutely.
are everything that Tim promised.
I'm sorry.
Tim's beating me.
But
Well, I was pulling my arm back because I'm going to step out and we're going to see if we can get Nadia in here.
Yeah.
So I will say.
Okay.
No, this is important because Nadia is important.
Yeah, well, Wendy's saying nice things
Nadia.
about me, Tim. So let her.
I had started a film called
that was
Working
your
Dogs: A Love Story with my
There you go,
husband,
honey.
Alan, 3 years ago. And it was about all kinds of dogs that worked. And Nadia is a working dog. She is a service dog. Now, did she come from the Short Hills? Was she trained there?
In Morristown.
Morristown, right.
Seeing Eye.
She was
Let me put a plug
yeah.
in for the Seeing Eye in
They're
Morristown.
wonderful.
They're, and you think they're a government institution or something? No, they need money.
Right.
I mean, they almost went out of business in 2000. Can you imagine?
Seeing Eye in Morristown, they do an incredible job with these dogs.
I think
we
that,
can't get Nadia up on
Nadia is
She's
so
not
well trained.
cooperating.
She's not going to jump on a seat in a restaurant. And also, you know what it is? These tables.
She's well trained not to jump on a seat in a restaurant.
Nadia kind of looks like this.
I have a great idea. Take a picture of Nadia with my camera, and we'll hold it up to the. Do it with yours. It's fine, and then we'll hold it up so people. She's really incredible, and what these dogs can do are absolutely incredible. And this is your first dog? Is this?
I had a dog when I was very young, when I first started college, and then I had a break in between.
Okay.
So,
how long did you have that dog for?
10 years.
Oh, that's a long time.
Yeah.
And it probably wasn't a shepherd, right?
It was a black lab.
A black lab. Yeah, the black labs are really common.
They're very, it's funny. I love the shepherds, but they have their way.
I was telling Adam before this show when we were making this film, Working Dogs: A Love Story, the ones that failed the puppy class were the 2 German shepherds. They do a test where they roll a ball down an aisle.
But that is Nadia under the table.
Oh my God. Hi, Nadia. Tim, thank you for doing that.
She wouldn't look at me.
The German shepherds were the ones that failed, the 2 in our class, and they went on to become police dogs. And of course, the golden retrievers and the labs. They passed. The ball wasn't a distraction for them. The German shepherds.
Well, because shepherds love to do stuff.
Right.
Thank
you. That's why they make it. But
a lab or a golden retriever would lie here for 10 hours.
Right. They're lost.
After we're done, she's ready to go.
Right.
So if you're on the move, it's good to have a shepherd.
Right.
If you're sitting around all day, you can do
well, but you're on the move.
Right. So, I'm a shepherd man.
Yeah, you are definitely a shepherd man. Wow.
Oh my gosh, there is so much more to Adam Linn, and please go to his website at Adam Linn, that's Linn, AdamLinn.com, and find out everything you need to know about the fabulous Adam Linn.
Right, and I have a funny feeling there's going to be a lot of projects in the next 2 years for Adam.
Yes.
Adam, of course, will come
Absolutely.
back on our show and share all of those.
Anytime.
Thank you so much, Wendy. I really appreciate you having me here. And Tim, oh God, it's been great knowing you these years.
Absolutely.
I love you. I love you so much. I'm so glad we reconnected. It's so good.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today.
Bye now.
We'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.